Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka 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 podcast.
Baka!
Baka.
It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Baka Baka Baka, an podcast about anime that's so meta. We watch an anime about an anime, and we're going to get into that in a minute. But first, let's introduce ourselves. My name is Troy. I am the host that is no longer allowed to go without pants. My wife put pajama shorts on me, and you know what? They feel fantastic.
That's a shame.
I'm sharing way too much with you guys.
I didn't know. I just assumed.
My other host is the Sebastian of my never-ending story, Jeremy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well.
He's the main character of Never-Ending Story.
I'm so not good on the names, even though I remember that show. It was such a good show when I was a little kid.
Great movie.
Yeah. I have been playing Heat Signature, which just came out from Creighton Crowbar's Tom Francis. Of course, I guess I should say Suspicious Developments Tom Francis, since that's the studio that he made. But it's really fun. It's a good game. I say if you enjoy any kind of roguelike, it's very much like a sort of FTL meets a very lighthearted roguelike.
That's what it looked like. And you're a space pirate stealing ships?
Well, you're trying to encourage independence in all these satellites amidst these 4 different groups. And so in a way, you kind of become a space pirate, but it's up to you whether you want to do it for missions. And sometimes you have clauses like, do it without killing anybody, do it without anybody setting alarms off, things like that.
It also kind of looked like Hotline Miami. Like you run into a room and you're just kind of dodging bullets and moving fast.
It really implements time slowdown very well while you're aiming. But it has a pause feature as well that you get to still use your various abilities. And I should also say, by no means are you limited to just using guns and swords and stuff. There are some really crazy gadgets in there that'll like teleport you in, and then a few seconds later you get teleported to back where you were. Other ones that you have to have a path leading up to the destination. It's really cool. But if you're extremely vulnerable, everything is like a one-hit kill, or at least a one-hit KO, and then they'll like.
So rage-inducing. It's rage-inducing.
it can be, but like it has really nice soft fail states where if they do catch you, they'll throw you out the airlock, but then you can remote control your ship and try to catch yourself before you starve of oxygen.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so it's really good. Definitely recommend it.
Let's check in with my other host. He is the Macaulay Culkin of my Page Master. Jason, how are you?
Page Master. Why do you keep bringing up movies from like the 60s? I don't understand.
The 60s? I don't think Macaulay Culkin was alive in the 60s.
He was just a little fetus going like this.
Does anyone even know who Macaulay Culkin is anymore?
Yeah, right. He looks scary now. Or
every
maybe
once in a while he shows up on Yahoo about what he's doing with his life. Jason, what you been up to?
Getting a bit frustrated at Path of Exile. My goal was to kill Shaper, and I literally had to build 3 new entire characters to try and get there. 2 of them have not panned out. The 3rd one is almost there. I think she might do it, so we'll have to wait and see. But because of that, I taken a little break and playing the new Long Dark. They just released their story mode a couple months ago, and I had yet to try it out. So.
Okay.
I never thought I'd hear you say getting frustrated with Path of Exile.
I saw the movie It. It was good. I know. I'm a big Stephen King fan. We already know that. We already knew I was going to see it, and I did go see it, and it was everything I wanted it to be.
Beautiful.
I love good child actors. They can sell horror movies so much better.
I saw an interview with I can never pronounce his last name, but the actor that did
Skarsgård.
Yeah, Skarsgård. He played Pennywise. He was describing this scene where he's in one of the kids' face. He's screaming. the kid's crying, tears, and just, both of them are frothing at the mouth because he's crying, he's crying so that, and then he's screaming. And he was so worried that he's in this kid's face, just traumatizing the crap out of them.
Forever.
And, director yells, cut. And, they both step out of character. And Skarsgård, goes, hey, are you okay? And he was, in the middle of, making sure the kid was like, great job. I really love what you do with the character. Nice work. He walks away.
That's awesome.
So, and he described all the kids as very professional and very well, great children actors. And so it was funny.
So there's a meme that has popped up on a Twitter account, and it's called Pennywise Dancing, because there's a scene where Pennywise comes out and just starts kicking and dancing in a moment trying to scare a kid. Yeah. And people are putting it to music, like, hey, yeah, and he's dancing, or Taylor Swift, Shake It Off. Always funny. Enjoying that very much. But we should move on. We should get to our anime.
Yeah.
We watched Recreators, which is an anime about anime. So, we're getting into the meta stuff, guys. This is going to be a doozy of an episode, and we're going to try to keep it under time. But this was directed by Aoki. Aoki? Look, that's his name. Written by Ray Hiroki and Aoki, and the studio is Troika, also owned by Aoki. What you need to know about that guy and this studio is they did Fate Zero. That's going to be important, especially when I give my preliminary review. He was associated. Actually, and I texted everybody on this podcast, 2 episodes in, I feel like I'm getting some Fate Zero feelings in here, especially in the fights. So
that makes sense now.
Like I said, that's going to matter in my review because I'm going to bring that up. But we should start with our pre-spoiler reviews about what we thought about this. Jason, you picked it. What'd you think?
I thought it was fantastic. I was really worried it was going to be another transport to another world anime, in reverse. And it was beautiful. And I think a big part of it was because all of the characters didn't come from the same anime or even similar animes. They all came from different ones. You got a mech driving kid and then a medieval knight, right? So, really, really enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to the next season. Or not, I guess it is next season.
Right. We should specify we've only watched the first 12 episodes. This is only the first half of it. We are going to watch the second half and do another podcast episode, just like we do when there's a bigger. You guys know.
You got it.
Jeremy, what'd you think?
I really liked it, and I had a dream. I had a dream that Troy had picked a different anime, and I woke up sad, man.
What?
That is so great.
I woke up sad, and I'm like, but I want to see the second season. And then I was like, oh, wait, he didn't. We are going to watch it, so I'm really happy.
Wait, was there a specific anime I picked? Because it is,
I think it was just a fabricated one that my imagination just made up. But
okay.
But yeah, at that point, it wouldn't matter. I genuinely want to see what's going to happen next.
I generally want to see an anime that your mind fabricated.
It would be a scary. It's Pennywise.
Pennywise in anime. I'm not sure I would want to see that.
Be terrified. I gotta say, in regards to why I like it, it's very much. There's been I don't want to say resurgence because I have never heard of it happening before. Maybe just the appearance of a new type of anime, which is we have Drifters, we have Bungo Stray Dogs. At least there's just 2 that we've seen ourselves recently that have this concept of drawing in characters from these diverse backgrounds, slapping them together in a story and seeing what would happen, or at least drawing in, in the case of Bungo Stray Dogs, facsimiles of them. But I think that this anime has done a really good job of going in a direction that at least the others didn't do, just because they were sourcing from the real world.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. I think I'm only halfway through, but I think so far Fate Zero is still better for me. But if you enjoyed Fate Zero or you enjoyed the Fate Stay Nights, this anime is for you. it's not as dark as Fate Zero, which might be the only thing that's keeping Fate Zero better for me. It also could be rose-tinted glasses of the past, too. But exactly what Jeremy said, we're dealing with a mixture of characters that we've been dealing with a lot in a lot of animes. Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero do that. Here's King Arthur, here's Alexander the Great, all battling, and Bungo Stray Dogs did it. This, instead of specific people, is like, what about anime tropes that are pulled in to battle each other? And that is very interesting, and they did a really good job with it. Before we get on to talking about it, guys, what did you think about the opening and closing songs?
Opening, amazing. I've listened to it countless times over the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, I really like it. It's funny too because I usually, if it is a song that I like to hum along and sing along with it. And when it's not on, I can't find it. I can't find the tune. I don't know what it is about the song. It's very good.
I liked it all right. I think the visuals definitely made it better. I think the visuals of the opening are amazing. The endings are pretty good too. I like seeing the Magic Girl pop up on her merchandise and the ending. But the beginning, you start off seeing them in their animes and you see them standing outside like posters of their animes. That was a really cool idea and really kind of led into knowing their genre before we even meet the character. You can kind of get a sense of where they came from. And the song was pretty good, but it wasn't at the peaks of some others we've had for me. Okay, now we go to our spoiler section, guys. We are going to tear into this plot, and there's a ton of characters to talk about that we're going to talk about. There's a ton of plot to talk about we're going to talk about. So if you are not ready for that, if you haven't watched this and you don't want to have it spoiled, please do not continue listening to this podcast for this episode. Maybe next week, tune in, whatever. And let's go ahead and get started. We have... usually I start these summaries with we're in a world where this is happening. Well, this is our world that this happens in. And the opening scene is a young girl falling in front of a train and committing suicide.
Heavy.
Which is quite a heavy way to start. And not mentioned for a long time. It ends up being a very huge important factor of this anime, but it's very much a nice little teaser of what you're getting into, and that this is going to have some dark tones to it, mature themes, and then we are introduced to our main character, Sato, isn't it? Is it Sato? Guys, I messed up names in my notes so many times.
I'm reading the notes, so it could be Soda.
Is it Soda or Sato? Does anyone know?
It's Sato.
Sota.
It is Soda.
Okay, I'm going to change the notes.
Yeah, you guys change your notes. So we're introduced to our main character, Soda, who introduces himself as the narrator of the story and not the main character, which I thought was interesting. He's actually saying someone else is the main character. What did you guys think of Soda?
He's interesting because he's only 16, and they actually do a really good job with not making him tropey. Which is funny for an anime like this that just is tearing in tropes to just mess with him. He was very immature. He was, but not to the point of unbelievability. And also, he was able to drive the story in a passive way, which is kind of an odd way to say it, but I thought he was okay. He's definitely not the most interesting character in the story, but he's definitely near the center. So,
yeah, how can you compete with all those awesome anime characters, right? For a long time, I thought he had a stronger tie to the main villain than what actually winds up being the story. I think that they presented things in such a nicely ambiguous way that I was able to be misled quite easily there.
To be fair, in my notes, every time they mention the villain and not knowing the source, the next note is they ask him to start showing his artwork. They're like, hey, you should show your artwork. The scenes were back to back all the time. And I didn't even realize it until I was looking back through my notes for this podcast that happened a lot.
Yeah. And there's also scenes where they're talking about where this character Altair would have come from and who created her, and he'll have like a twitch, or they'll show him doing something that makes him uncomfortable.
Or start sweating.
Yeah, exactly. And there was a shot where they showed his art, and there was just like the corner of an anime girl's head, and it had like a cat ear and everything, and the hair looked right. And I thought, oh, I wonder if there's cat ears underneath her pigtails. Maybe that's why they're held up. But yeah, so for me, he was an interesting character to watch, but that was his biggest feature. And when that kind of fell through, he wasn't as important to me.
For me, I felt he's supposed to be bland. I mean, that's kind of the point of him. He's not special. He's just a normal guy. But he also felt like there wasn't a whole lot going on with the character. It isn't until later when he makes a confession to all the other characters of the secret that he's hiding that I actually even cared about him. And honestly, he doesn't have a lot to do in the anime except for that he holds this one fact inside of him the whole time. And even the fact they're keeping him around sometimes is a little unbelievable. Like, you're really not associated with anything going on other than you were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I kind of wonder how he got so associated with it, because the opening is that, you know, he goes to his room and he falls into an anime, in an anime battle happening in front of him. And I wonder why he fell. It has to be his association with the villainess, Altair.
That was what I thought. I thought that they were headed the route of he made her, so he gets sucked into the world because of her being a proxy. We see that another creator at a later point gets sucked into the world with the Gigamech. And so I thought that was them saying, see, he has a direct relationship with one of these two characters, and it couldn't be Celestia, so it had to be Altair.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why he just kind of stays in the story as our eyes, but I kept wondering, would they really keep you around for this? But again, that moment in, I believe it's episode 11, where he confesses and we have the big flashback of his secret, that was very well done and made his character much more likable. But up until then, I was like, you're like the least interesting thing going on, man.
Yeah.
You're a weak point in the party.
But like I said, he does fall into an anime. It's like one of his favorite anime. It's the hot anime of the season. It's basically their Yuri on Ice. they're guys. I know if you're listening to this podcast, you don't get it. Their faces are brilliant right now. It's called Vogelchevalizer. Guys,
nice word.
The anime titles in this are ridiculous.
Even
for anime titles, I was like, Symphony of Alessia Madakabadabadabada. I'm allowed to say that. I'm a Baka.
That's right. Your Baka's showing.
A really beautiful animated scene, though, because, there's a giant mech attacking this, what they call the military uniform princess, which is a girl with long white pigtails. She's young, and she has these swords hovering around her, and she uses a gun like a violin, which
that was awesome.
The gun barrel is like the violin. It's really cool looking. And he's like, wow, he's kind of stunned. He's in the anime, but he realizes that's not an anime character. And the main anime character we do meet is Celestia, who, she's the female protagonist of this anime, and she saves him and they fall back into the real world. Now, then he gets to meet Celestia, and the adventure kind of starts from there. What did you guys think of our main heroine?
I really liked her arc, and I actually like a lot of these anime characters that get sucked into the real world arc for a couple of reasons. Hers specifically, though, she is trope anime heroine. I drove a mech. I am stalwart all the time. And throughout the season, she turns more into normal person, character growth, and I'm my own person now. I don't need a writer to be writing my lines, or at least that's kind of how it felt, and that she was making her own decisions because that's what she felt was right. And so I actually enjoyed watching her grow as a character throughout this.
Okay, so I really liked Celestia also because there was this there was this scene where she needs to open a window later, and she's got another character with her. And like, how does she open it? She shoves her sword through it and pushes it open. I'm like, who does that? But it's exactly what she would do. And
I did really like this, especially the sequence right after that, where she jumps out and she pulls a guy out of her car, and they jump in the car. And he's like, "Do you know how to drive a car?" She's like, "Well, this is way easier than a mech, so I think I can handle it." And I was like,
figure it out.
"Oh no, that checks out.
That makes sense." And then she's joyfully honking the horn.
Right. And this must be the weapons turns on the wipers.
That's so great.
Dude, had some great scenes with her getting introduced to this world.
However, my personal thoughts on her are kind of the opposite, you guys. This is probably my least favorite character. She really didn't feel like a main character. She didn't seem like she was the focus most of the time. I feel like Meteora was way more the major character. I guess she's supposed to be generic anime girl, and she felt generic anime girl, and I just didn't feel her arc as well. Now her moments with her creator, especially later in the series, are very well done. I did really like those. I'm not saying she's a bad character. I just feel like, for one thing, all the villains in this anime seem way more interesting than the heroes in this anime.
Absolutely.
But she was even like my least favorite of the heroes as far as being interesting.
I actually found it really interesting when you called her a protagonist at the beginning, because that had never clicked for me. I thought she was an important character, but she'd never hit that mark of being the protagonist in my mind. So I totally agree.
My understanding is that Soda, in the beginning, when he says he's the narrator talking about another main character story, he's talking about her.
It could be. Nobody ever stood out to me as the main character. I mean, Soda, I thought he was supposed to be, but he didn't play up the role.
For me, it was kind of a mixture between Celestia and Meteora. Like, they were almost one character. Like, Meteora was the narration of the main character, and Celestia was the tool or the hammer or the sword of the main character.
Okay, so let's get to Meteora, because they drive away, and then this military uniform princess shows up and attacks them, and they have this big sky battle, and then all of a sudden missiles come out of nowhere.
I thought a helicopter had shown up.
There's a point in this where they explained where those missiles eventually come from, and I was like, Jeremy is going to love that so much.
I was like,
it was
amazing. You took the trouble? Oh, thank you.
Yeah, they explained why a magic person is able to summon missiles. It was pretty good. This is Meteora who's attacking. She's using these summoning spells to summon these missiles, and she is rejecting this military uniform princess and helping Celestia fight her. Now, for me, she got demoted to exposition dump a little too much, but I did really like the character. What do you guys think?
I have a sorry. Okay. I have a love-hate relationship with Meteora, because, like you say, an exposition dump, that's the hate part. But at the same time, I love the character because it's legitimate. Like, her exposition dumps are literally how fast her brain processes things and the way she perceives them. I get it. It's okay. It almost legitimizes her being an exposition dump so that I can stand it. And just the way that she reacted as soon as she had the opportunity to try and try out her theories about how the relationship between the creators and the created and how much they could influence them, watching her deal with failure time and time again, and how she just thought, okay, well, my approach isn't quite right then. There's something missing. It was really fascinating. She was the logical mind in all of this. I really enjoyed her presence.
And I think that's what I really appreciated about her character as well. It was the near scientific way she went about her testing, and how failure wasn't a end all be all for her, but it was data. And it was really cool because I like where she came from. She was a side NPC in a video game.
She's like a quest giver, right?
Yeah. And like, and actually Soda made mention of it. He's like, "Oh, I recognize you. We had a problem when I was trying to save my game."
She's like,
you know, it's
the
like
last...
do you want to save your game? And she's the anime, like scholar that's there to like help you save your game. And that played into her very well because she had no offensive magic and she had no restoration magic, but she was defensive and she was a scholar, and that played into her abilities to process data and to like go about discovery and come across these epiphanies, like you said, Jeremy. I think that endeared me to the character, even though she was deadpan and actually kind of boring to watch, but believable, and I enjoyed that about the character.
I enjoy. She reveals later that she, even at this point, she hasn't decided what team she's actually going to join, and I like that she's that logical. That she's like, yeah, I'm just kind of, I'm still processing things.
Mm-hmm.
After the big battle, the military uniform princess runs away, and Soda goes home. And when he gets there, these two characters have shown back up in his place. Even though they bid him farewell, they come back to like, yeah, we literally have nowhere else to go.
And they broke his sliding door to get in.
Yes.
And I do like that about Celestia, that in her mind, in their world, breaking things is not a big deal. But like here, like even later they'll mention like those missiles that hit those other buildings. Yeah, that costs a lot of money.
Yep.
And then the cover up, that was even worse.
There's also a nice scene after this of him taking them out to get food, because apparently food in our world tastes real, and everyone else from their imaginary worlds don't quite get the food right. So everyone is enamored with our food, and they make him buy all their groceries. Yeah, because so they decide they ask him for help, and he's like, I guess, and like, we will offer you services in return for your help. And he's like, you don't have to. And Miura's like, no, I will clean your room. And she's like, I will cast a restoration spell on it. And they come back like an hour later. It's still messy. Like,
I had a Dragon Maid moment there, and I'm like, don't you dare. Don't you dare. I was so happy when I saw her sweeping.
After, more investigating and Meteora explaining like how she's aware of stuff, apparently her book can tell her anything about our world because it's Wikipedia magically.
Well, they do mention she mentions how the world is having to adapt to the physical laws that are being.
I think that's later. I think that's later when they discover the military uniformed princess's evil plan.
Right, but she's kind of discovering it because of this thing that, like, her magic book still works.
Right.
She can still cast magic, and she's able to gain information about our world through her book. So she's realizing that they're starting to affect our world. So
after this, they decide they want to meet their creators. So they go to, they contact Celestia's creator by pretending she's a hot cosplay girl that wants to meet him. Which works. And then we're introduced to a bunch of characters really fast. This second episode, the second half flies by really quick. First, we're introduced to Matsubaru, who is Celestia's creator. And I want to talk about him, but I also kind of want just the creators in general, what your guys' thoughts on them were. Bland humans that are walking around the story.
Yeah. It was interesting to watch their struggle with the idea that this was reality. I think that was the most interesting thing about them. I'm sure they're going to play a bigger role in this next season as they've discovered.
Right.
They can affect these characters. But yeah, for the first 8-9 episodes, they don't really play much of a part.
I think Matsubaru's character was the most interesting of the creators to me, which is why I kind of listed him, because he really slowly comes to, we see him almost as a fatherly figure for her. Like she's not just this magic thing that showed up in this world that he's tied to. He's her creator and he cares about her. And there's a moment where he's like, I'm not going to let my creation be killed by some amateur creation that we'll find out later. And how much pride he has in her. It kept it coming into my mind, like as they meet these creations as real people, what's that going to do to them writing the story going forward, knowing as I ruin their lives further or, give them hardships and pain. It'll be interesting to see that play out in the second half, because I started to kind of see it, especially with Matsubaru at the end of this season.
Yeah, they did a good job making them diverse in their reactions to their creations. And you make a good point, especially about how they are going to have to deal with what they're going to write in the next season. They definitely have played that up by the end of this season. And so, yeah, I'm curious, because, what do you do at that point? If you end the story, you killed them.
Right.
You have to keep them alive.
And you have to keep the story interesting, or you
yes.
kill them.
Yes.
They
so
make
how
that
do you?
Point too.
Yeah. So it's really interesting situation.
Right after this, this pink-haired girl runs up to him and is like, "Hey, by the way, I've been sent by the villain to talk to you guys." And this is Mamika, who is basically a mixture of Sailor Moon and Magica Madoka. Yeah, Madoka. But not a dark version like Madoka actually is. She's a magic girl, and she immediately starts this fight. She transforms in front of him, starts a fight with Celestia, and beats her easily.
Yeah.
And then Celestia's sitting there bloodied and bruised, and she's like, "Why is there blood? Why?"
Mamika becomes horrified.
Yeah.
Like, she looks around at the destruction she's caused.
Right. The buildings have been blown up, and all from her, like, magic hearts flying out of her wand. Yep. Guys, this was my favorite character, and she really gets the best arc in this season because her arc is going to be cut short, unfortunately. We told you there were spoilers. But she does get a complete arc. We see this character, and I thought it was the best, have to deal with her worldview being shattered by finding out what she is, that friendship doesn't save the day. And then coming to a decision that I'm going to try to win with friendship anyway, because that's who I am and that's who I want to be. Despite that not working out well for her. But it was a really nice moment that after all this confusion of good guys and bad guys, and what's really great about this anime is the bad guys are the good guys from their individual animes, usually. She, has to go through this. Am I a good guy? Am I a bad guy? What side am I on? And who am I if I was created, and how to stay true to myself? Great character writing as far as I'm considered. I laughed at her as a joke. I was sending text out to the other hosts, Jeremy and Jason, like, "Oh, she's so OP. The magic girl thinks friendship saves everybody." And by the end, I was super invested in her storyline. So well done.
Yeah. I loved that just realization from her that, because Celestia asks her, "Okay, you've beaten me, but now what do you do with someone that still doesn't agree with you?" And she's just, she's dumbfounded. She doesn't know what to do, because every single story arc in her world, this is what happens. But I love her character growth as well, more than Celestia's, because she comes to that realization later on, and I think it's episode 6, where she's like, if I let this fighting continue, I will be so ashamed, and I know at some point I'm going to have to go back, and I won't be able to face my friends if I let this happen, or if I let somebody die. It's so heartbreaking to watch her story, but so invested.
Yeah, I thought that she really amplified every character that she interacted with too, because she drew out.
She drew out.
She drew out the good that was in them, and she brought it to the attention to their attention, and made them look at themselves. Specifically, I'm thinking of Alisteria, Alice, and just the relationship that Mamika has with Alice is a really fascinating one. And we'll get into Alice quite a bit later, but Mamika maintained her determination so strongly to keep being good. So all I really wanted to say was I thought it was really funny because Mamika kind of displayed her determination, almost a stubbornness, where, like you mentioned, Jason, she was dumbfounded for a moment, but then she went to what she would always do, and she was ready to magic flare splash her again, even though that would probably kill her, because she genuinely believed, like, no, I just didn't do it right the first time. I got to hit you full bore with this thing again.
Actually, so another character that we're going to meet later makes an interesting point to her that, if she used her magic splash flare thing, she would probably end the fighting. And the reason for that is when Troy said she was OP, she is the power level. She is the most powerful character that in this story,
except for maybe the villain. I think the villain might be stronger than her.
I think the villain is on an arc, and I think by the later point she is stronger. But at the beginning, I think she wasn't.
Yeah, but because she's a magic girl, so inexperienced and so ingrained in this other world, she's got problems, and I love how flawed she is, and how well it's done.
Absolutely.
The naivety. She's like, no, there has to be good in all people. People must be good.
Another character then jumps in to save the day at the last second, which apparently he's going to do repeatedly throughout this anime.
Yeah.
It's kind of his thing. But he's close to my heart as one of my favorites too. Yuya, he says he's the final boss in his video game, and we later find out he's like the rival but also best friend of the main protagonist of his game. So,
sounds like a Final Fantasy.
To me, I kept having thoughts of Pokemon.
Yeah.
Even though there's no battle monsters or he doesn't have anything like that. Well, he has a spirit that helps him.
Got a spirit battle monster.
Curse.
Yeah.
But, in Pokemon, there's red and there's blue, and at the end you have to go fight blue, even though he's your buddy from town. And even at one point, he says he misses the main protagonist of his game. Like, they are close. So he's not an evil villain, but he is the antagonist final boss. And he's proud of that. He's like, I'm pretty powerful. I'm a final boss. That line. Yep. What'd you guys think of him?
I thoroughly enjoyed this character. He was witty, brash, but he was also one of those characters that, once removed the restraints of his story, grew as a character.
Which he points out that he's like, we're all growing into the character descriptions that are hidden by the creators. He notices that first, that he's like, I'm not what I was when I first got here.
Yeah, but it is interesting, even though he seems to be on Team Celsia and Meteora, he doesn't seem to have a clear motivation.
Oh no, he's just having fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To me, he's the anti-BS character, which is great because one of his rivals that end up in the story is the BS character. But I really like that about him. I like that he was the guy who was like, cut the BS. Mm-hmm. This is what you really mean, or this is what your intent is. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like the bald-faced truth. Yeah. It's a very interesting dichotomy those two have. There, the word made it. Everybody can drink.
Jeremy, what'd you think of him?
I absolutely loved the character. I thought he was a lot of fun to watch. I enjoyed the presentation of his fighting style and the way that he approached situations. I didn't mind that he always swooped in. But I definitely saw them play up his sort of lunk-headed brashness in his encounter with Magane, the mouth. And it was a really interesting conflict.
Very much so. And then in the next episode, another character shows up, swooping in for the other team and grabs Mamaka and takes her away. And this is
Alice.
It's Alice. Jeremy will tell you the real name.
Alisteria.
Yeah. But Mamaka calls her Alice, and she's a very interesting character because she is a magical knight from a anime about like a war-torn, hellish nightmare world where like
graphic novel style,
right? Like she just comes from bad story, and she's on the bad team. That's like, wait, someone did that to my world on purpose. Like people are dying. Innocent people are dying.
Yeah.
And so she's very upset. And
this must be a sick world here.
Like one of the first things we see her do is go kidnap her creator and be like, fix it.
Yeah.
Which we find out he can't do. But her arc, she becomes friends with Mama Cover, so that becomes very influencing her character. She really doesn't like a villain that comes up later. But so what did you guys think of Alice?
I have a lot of descriptions for a lot of these characters, and they usually end in incarnate. She is cognitive dissonance incarnate. Like, she has this goal and she has these values, but she's unsure who's telling her the truth, who's lying to her, and she's unsure of what that pathway needs to be in order to get to where she needs to go.
There's even a great moment where someone's trying to tell her the truth, and she's like, "Stop!
Silence.
I have what's in my head set. Please do not mess with it again. Like, let me just have this."
Yep.
And she's quick to action over words because of her story description or her character description. She dives into action, but I think she's a broken person because she makes an interesting. They give a flashback of her. I think that flashback in different scenarios has happened to her many times, where she goes to save the day, she gets there, and she
wins the battle, but the day is not saved. Yeah,
right. And I think that happens to her way too often, and because of that, it's formed her into this brash, unreasonable knight that is just trying to do justice, but unfortunately falls short. And so again, another flawed character that I love to watch.
Yeah. She's definitely second to Mamika as my favorite character, just because of that conflict and how she's being essentially used as a tool, and she's not sure whether she wants to believe that she's being used as a tool, but more and more you see that doubt kind of waking up. And it's really interesting. I kind of see her as she's like that holy angelic paladin knight personified. She's even got like these other knights on flying horses that she can call out of the cosmos that look like some kind of flying horse angel knight things, right?
Yeah.
Much like her. It makes me wonder, I want to know more about that world. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of Claymore. Just even when Claymore, she was not like a great holy knight or anything like that. Just the setting being so dark and just trying to survive and just trying to, and never being able to get ahead of the problem, and how brash that made that main character. And you'd see them cut corners or make decisions that didn't always necessarily align perfectly with their justice or their perception of the world, just because they realized, I don't have the time to live up to my own expectations. I just have to do something now. I have to act because the opportunity will pass me by. And so it was so interesting seeing, like you said, just the way that she has this cognitive dissonance. I think is because she's always failed, and so now she's rushing. Doesn't take the time to think.
There's something in Alice's story arc, and especially about her world, that they really explore. They talk about humans, or real people, as the gods of like pleasure, because we watch these people suffer in these animes where they're just there to entertain us. And they really explore through Alice, like, why do we watch anime with dark, like we watch a race? Why do we do that? Why do we watch these people suffer? And eventually a character comes forward and is like, you give us hope. You show us that even in the darkness, a hero can rise. There's a lot of stuff like that. And Alice's is one of the biggest examples and best examples that they do with this anime. That's very meta. But as an anime watcher, as a guy who does a podcast about anime, was really refreshing to have that stuff kind of talked about. Which is one of the reasons I love this anime so much. When I was watching the first episode, I said to you guys, I really hope they're going down the road they seem to be going down, and they did, talking about why we watch anime in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
The next episode, not a lot happens. There's a lot of great moments, but it's basically they take Celestia's creator and her artist, who reminded me of my daughter, who likes to draw anime girls and characters, and she wears sweaters, and she's just it was my daughter incarnate. Her name was Marine. But they're like, okay, let's edit Celestia's character. Let's give her a power upgrade. Let's change her character description just to see if they could. And it ends up not working. And they're like, okay, we did all the work. We drew the picture. We wrote the story. Why didn't it change? And their theory is because the fans, the audience isn't involved in it. And they kind of come up with these theories that there's so much information in this world that's why these worlds have become realities. Because our information is so layered, but without the crowds accepting it, without perception of more than one person, there is no reality.
There's been a lot of interesting studies that have been done on, I don't remember the terminology. I read about them a long time ago. Basically, the harmony of human intention and desire and thought process. And there's like some experiments that have been done where ton of people from all over the world would like coordinate these events where they would try to desire or think the same thing at the same time. And then they would keep track of what actually happened. And they actually found that there were measurable effects in some of these experiments. And it was very interesting. So that, of course, is what this reminded me of as soon as I was hearing the description is it was as much the information as it was the passion and intensity and desire that the fans had, that this world mattered so much to them that in this particular anime, that actually created a reality where these characters were given life. And I love that concept. That is a really, really cool idea to actually put together as a story background.
Yeah, very, very simulation theory or 13th floor kind of.
Or Page Master, never-ending story.
Yeah.
Movies from the 80s that mattered.
They're all real.
The next scene has to do with Meteora wants to meet her creator, and when they go, they find out that the creator has actually died recently in an accident, and so she's not able to. And like I said, she hasn't decided which team she officially wants to join. She's acting at this point. And so she goes and buys her own video game and plays it overnight at an internet cafe.
That's cool.
And then she comes and says, like, I could tell he loved my world because he loved his world. Like, it was a gift to his world to have my world. And just brings her to, like, I do want to protect this world that he loves so much for the care that he put into mine. And that's when
a really cool moment.
Yeah, and this is where she floats her theory about what the military uniform princess is trying to do, that real reality can only hold so much of the zaniness, so much of this magic girl powers, giant robots. There's a reason they're not bringing slice of life characters over. It's the wackiness is breaking reality, and if it goes too far, reality will be destroyed. And that's what the military uniform princess wants. And so they're like, okay, we have to stop her, and we have to find the creations as they're brought over, which the villain can do, and get them to not be wacky, right? Don't use your powers, please. Or at least, minimize the chaos. And so they kind of set themselves to this. Meanwhile, the creator gets a call from another creator buddy. His name is Nakagone? Yeah. He's the fat guy. And he's like, my show with the Giga Mecha? It's outside.
Well, actually, no, I love how the conversation goes. He's like, you might not believe me. And he's like, what, one of your characters from your anime came out to life? And he's like, yes!
Yep. I've gotten so many. Oh no, that was later when he said he got a bunch of psychiatrist offers, like because he was trying to tell other authors.
Right.
Oh,
yeah. That too. But yeah, so his character showed up with his giant mecha, his Gundam, if you will. It's called the Gigas
Mecha or something like that.
Gigas Mecha. I called it the Gigas.
Yeah.
This character's name, it's the Gigas Machine, something like that.
I love the cockpit of this thing that you can't see it while you're inside. I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah.
There's a Gundam where they did that. It's the one where it's like fighting Gundams.
Oh, like Power Ranger.
Guy does the burning hand attack. It's G Gundam. Is it G Gundam? Yeah. I don't know if that's right, but I'm going to go with it. The pilot's name is Rui. Yeah, it's Rui. And so this character doesn't get a whole lot of screen time and not a whole lot of development, so we'll just be really quick. What do you guys think of him?
He was funny.
Yeah, he's a kid with a chip on his shoulder, and he kind of grew out of it a little bit.
Yeah, his big scene with Soda really endeared me to him. Until then, yeah, he's just kind of hey, I have like one of the most powerful things here, but I don't feel like it.
I did think he was like the trump card for quite a while.
Oh yeah, totally. I loved his little moment with Yuya where he was like, yeah, I think your robot's pretty cool too. He's like, we should go to ride. Yeah. Then from that point on, they're just bros.
Did we just become best friends? Basically what happened.
That was cool.
So they go to see him, let's go talk to the creation. He's like, yeah, the military uniform princess did come. And then suddenly government soldiers just rush in and attack them.
Was not expecting this.
He takes out like 5 with one kick, which is a really, really cool move. You definitely remind me of a Gundam pilot because they were always pretty good soldiers outside the mecha too. But Miura's like, no, we need to surrender, guys. We're not fighting the Japanese government. And they get brought before this council that has been made by the government to deal with fictional characters entering reality.
Yeah. Apparently it's a problem there. Just look at the other anime.
Well, okay, so I do have to mention this. So a little bit before the soldiers jump in, they're like trying to convince Rui to like join them, and he's like complaining about how he hasn't been like treated well because he's young and like he didn't get a chance to go on a date with another team member. And then like Celestia's like, hey, you come with us, I'll go on a date with you. And he stares her and then looks her up and down. You're not young enough for me.
Yeah, I like girls that are younger than me.
That's so great.
Probably my first character moment for Celestia that I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Because up until then, she'd been pretty bland. And I'm like, oh, she does have personality. Good. Yep. Yeah, so they meet this council and they kind of share information. This is the great scene where they're like, yeah, and then we had all these missiles stolen from us that cost about $1 million each. and Meteora's like, so sorry.
Yeah, it even shows a picture of her flying away. They've got it on the big screen as they're talking about it, and everybody just kind of looks at Meteora.
They keep listing the prices, and she's just like, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's really good.
They're like, well, I mean, just next time ask. But the government actually is like, okay, we're going to help you. You're obviously trying to save the world. This is obviously beyond what we understand, so we're going to back you. And the character that helps him is Aki, and I didn't really list her to talk about. She doesn't get a whole lot to do other than be their government liaison. But that is the character who has very long last name. I'm not even going to try.
I was kind of thrown around during this whole situation, like when the government showed up and everything. It was interesting to see. I liked the idea, but I kind of wondered, where are they going with this? Is this suddenly going to take a change in flavor? Are they going to become like working with the government as operatives? To what extent? Are they going to be like soldiers sent out on missions? Like, where is this going? And then when they've got this lady working with them, I didn't see it still remaining so free and having them still almost behave in an unrestrained manner. I mean, there were still they still had to call in and check in, but it was almost really a casual sort of relationship that they had, which made sense. But it was really strange, kind of wrapping my head around where the plot was going for these beats.
I really liked how they didn't make it into a government trying to take over every situation. I did appreciate that because it helped with the flow of the story.
Yeah,
and also they knew their place and they took their place because they were like, look, we have guns and we have soldiers and we know they're 100% useless.
You have a giant robot, you can fly.
That's what surprised me so much is like, I'm used to the government representation in things like,
we're the government. You have to do what we say. We control things around here, little lady.
We always have nukes. Like, go to the next option, right? I'm used to that representation in fiction where the government is eventually they're going to bully you into being the obedient child. But this presentation was so friendly. It was a little bit hard to believe just because I haven't seen portrayals like that. But I'm glad they did that. It was an interesting direction to take it.
I like that a lot.
So in the next episode, we are introduced to a character who I think is going to get a lot of talking points up in this podcast. So to set it up, they find out a new creation has entered the world. Both Alice and Mamaka are searching for her. They're literally like living under a bridge in the area, trying to find her, and a murder happens. Okay, before we talk about the character, please someone explain to me how this power works.
We don't know. She obviously has some
cause and effect. We've been told that.
She did say she has to cast spells in order for certain things to happen. But she also has some supernatural abilities of her own, obviously, because of the way she moves, the way she jumps. And she was willing to take Alice's spear to the chest, and I think that was part of a spell she was casting.
It seems to me like if you lie to her and she lies back, she can reverse the cause and effect. Basically, you shoot me with a gun, it's supposed to hurt me, but now I've reversed that, so now I'm impervious to that gun move.
I think what's going to happen is as that spear hit her, it was going to stab Alice because of their conversation. Her spells are due to her lie about a lie. It turns inside out.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who doesn't quite have this, who's still wrapping their head around it.
Yeah. So what I got was basically very similar to what you guys are saying, except it's different order. Every time that I saw her open her mouth, she was throwing a hook out. She was she was asking a question that was also a statement of it was a lie of her own. Like, you can't hurt me with that. Specifically, like when she's facing the guy with the stick. Yuya. And she kept saying, you can't hurt me with that. Or, you've never hit a girl with, you couldn't kill a girl with that or something. I can't forget exactly what.
She asked about the spirit that he has. She's questioning him about it.
She keeps what she does is she throws challenges out. And if you respond to a challenge, then, and you say something like, she's so good at reading people that she's trying to hit you with this storm of words that are just interspersed with these hooks. And if you catch a hook in your mouth and you spit out something that isn't 100% true, that's all she needs right there. Because what was it she said to Soda? She says, I only tell lies. Mm-hmm. And I mean, honestly, to say that means like that statement itself would have to be a truth if all you told was lies. I mean, it's that law moment. Yep. But that's the kind of person she is, where you can expect.
Okay, I should introduce her. Her name is Megane. She is the villain of a light novel, where she is the killer, and the main character is trying to stop her. And she's brought into this world, and basically, Alice finds her and is like, no. Yeah. No. Yeah. You can't be on our team. You're evil. Yeah. And she does. She murders like a bookstore owner in her first scene. Eviscerates him because she gets him to say she can't have a book or something like that.
Yeah, she gets him to say that the book wasn't hers, and then she says, who wrote that? What's written on the book? And then what did he say? He said, I'm going to call the police or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and she's like, oh, a lie on a lie becomes inverted, and then a monster appears. And it's like...
Well, in the book it said, this fictional beast is going to kill you.
I couldn't read it. It was...
So I wrote a little bit of paper, and if you want to read more about it, you can go to our blog. But I went through that episode. Like, I watched a minute at a time, 6 times over, and I paid I wanted to pick out that episode because it was just so well done, in my opinion. And that's what it said in the book. It said basically this fictional monster is going to kill you. And he's like, no way, it's not. And so she's like, a lie about a lie. It turns inside out on itself. And that was the cast, because the incantation is the conversation and the lie on the lie. And then she says that's the cast. And then the monster appeared.
Uh-huh.
So what was his lie?
That it wasn't going to happen?
That there was no way she could have done it. And that that it obviously wasn't either wasn't her, or he didn't believe that this thing was going to happen to him.
But
okay, so we had to keep going.
Yeah, okay.
And if you can't tell, this is Jason's favorite character, so I'm going to let him give his review first.
Go.
hit us with it. What's so great about her?
She's basically manipulation incarnate. And actually, Jeremy mentioned a good point about their conversation where she's throwing out hooks to try and lure people into her spells. And she actually gets really irritated when Mamika interrupts both of them and is like trying to talk reason into Alice. And that's why she got irritated, because she was interrupting her spell. And so, but the reason I like her so much is because very few animes will give evil characters, specifically psychopathic killer characters, justifications for what they do. Because they have this little fight between Alice and her on, because Alice accuses her of killing someone. And nowhere in this entire episode does she admit to killing anyone or hurting anyone. But she goes, what's the difference between killing for justice and killing for fun? What's justice? Is it just a feeling you have? Then how is that different than killing for fun? And I don't see that very often in anime. And like I said, I wrote a whole thing on it. Go to the blog if you want to read it. But
and it will be on our Twitter. If you follow our Twitter or if you follow our blog on WordPress, it will be showing up probably sometime after this episode. And you can dive into that and see Jason's thoughts. I've already previewed it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
But Jeremy, you had some other thoughts on this character, and I would like to hear that.
So traditionally, I have always absolutely loved villains that are really obnoxious and noisy, like Betelgeuse from ReZero, and there's been quite a few others. In this case, I liked her presentation. She was a very interesting character. She was a good villain, but I found that she was so annoying. And I want to say, because what I was trying to do is I'm trying to follow everything, the entire conversation that's going on, and she's throwing these hooks out at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and the other people are trying to understand. So I'm seeing that from their perspective, what are they hearing, and then how are they responding, and then how is she absorbing that? It was like information overload on me, because I'm like, whoa, what is the exchange taking place here? That drove me nuts, because in the end, she was almost never saying anything. It was always it was all just bloated speech, full of just these empty hooks waiting. And until somebody grabbed it, it was empty. It was empty speech, just looking for somebody to grab. And that was driving me nuts. But I this is, I think, one of the areas that you would disagree with me a little bit. So I kind of want to mention it and just see if we can explore it a little. But I think she's a bit of a Deus Ex Machina when it comes to this anime. And I'll give my reasons really quick, which are, we're having a really hard time describing and explaining how her power works. But one way that we could explain it is to say that it distorts reality and cause and effect to be what she wants or describes using her spell.
They did state at one point she has the power to shape reality.
Yeah, and to reverse cause and effect. And then also, since she's not acting with any particular goal in mind, the only thing she's doing is for fun. Yeah. So that means that the author can essentially direct her toward any situation. And she does seem to appear repeatedly in situations and just foul them up for fun, which is another reason why she was annoying me. With Manika, she appears, she just happens to be there, and she gets herself involved for the purpose of having fun. And then, so I see her as filling those two necessary things, where she has the only direction being given her is whatever the writers deem, because
whatever the writers deem,
because she's just trying to have fun. And then her power is so strong that it essentially rewrites reality, which God in the machine.
I can
So,
I don't really see any examples of blatant Deus Ex Machina, but I see where it could definitely be abused. You are absolutely right with that. But what I think I'm really loving to hate about this character is her lack of motivation, because we have a distinct bad guy, we have a distinct group of good guys, and she doesn't care
yeah.
where she goes. She just wants to have fun. So if it's helping the bad guys or helping the good guys, it just doesn't matter. She just wants to lie and mess with people and kill people.
I actually think I disagree with both of you. I think she does have a motivation. She at one point says she wants to be the emperor of this world. She did. She goes to her creator and tries to get a power upgrade, and when that doesn't happen, she murders him. And then she says, well, I guess I'll just have to do this the hard way. And she's planning on taking out these two parties, and she even tells one, like, yeah, I'm going to kill you, but don't worry, I'm going to go kill them too. Like, it's going to hurt for both of you. I think she's a third party trying to go for world domination, especially since the main character of her anime isn't around to stop her.
And so to talk about her creator's death scene for a sec, because you did, I completely forgot about that. If you noticed, he hung himself. I don't think she touched him. I think she killed him.
Spells.
Get him to killed himself.
But I think she talked him into killing himself.
Totally agree. He also looked a bit desiccated, though. I mean, his hands looked withered, like he had starved.
Who knows with her? You know, she could.
Yeah.
To me, she was the evil trope villain that likes to over-explain stuff that Jeremy usually likes. Turned up to 11 for the purpose of playing with that trope. But I think I did like that she was this third party that was just a wild card. You don't know what side she's going to be helping at any given moment. And the way she interacts with the individual characters and really messes with their heads was interesting. I could definitely see where she could go wrong in the future, though.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, so we made it through that. But
yeah, surprisingly quick.
I would recommend you to read Jason's blog post, though. That was very good. A big battle basically starts. Celestia and Meteora show up, and they get involved, and Alice starts fighting Celestia, and she, we see power levels are blasting. And another character shows up named Blitz Talker, and we don't get many scenes with this guy, but which is too bad. In the intro, we kind of see him as like a detective character, and he reminded me a lot of something like we'd see in Psychopaths. That's what I kept feeling. But his ability to fly and shoot gravity bullets, so I could be something else. But every time we saw him, I'm like, this guy seems smart. So how is he on the bad guy side? How is he getting duped? Like Alice, you can see how she's getting duped by this. Not that she's dumb, but that she's so devoted to justice and what she's going to do. You see that. I kept wondering, like, and this guy is like drank the Kool-Aid. He is on the bad guy side, and he's like, yeah, we'll just kill these other characters. Who cares? And he's the one that goes up to Mamaka, is like, you should just blow them all away. You could win. You could end this fight right now. Just boom. And she's like, no. And she even, when he gets involved in this fight, she saves Meteora from him. We do find out, at the end, though, this character has a dead daughter. And I think that hit me so hard. And while I can't wait to get more into him, and especially when he's like, yeah, I can't wait to go back to my anime world. And Alice is like, you need to be a better liar, because no, you don't. That really hit me hard, as a father. That, like, if I found out that the greatest pain I'd ever felt came from fiction,
it's manufactured,
let's burn it down. I'm in. So I'm really excited to see where they go with this character. I'm sure we'll have more to say about it in the next podcast. If you guys have anything to add, go ahead.
I'm wondering. I mean, he did mention that he was not the main character, and he was surprised to see that. Too. That was, for a while, I was actually thinking that most of these characters were not main characters, because even Celestia is the kind of the sidekick. She's the one that's always called weak to her main character.
Right.
But I really liked this guy. I don't honestly think that he's necessarily 100% aligned with the military uniform princess. I am curious to see whether he eventually changes sides.
You guys, anything to add?
Just that it was interesting because when Mamika saved Meteora from him, she asked him, she was down. Why were you going to kill her? And he's like, she might come back and attack again. And like gets the smile on his face and just starts firing a volley. So yeah, I think he's a broken person. I think he's depressed. And yeah, I think he's at a point where he just let the world burn.
Okay. The battle continues, and Yuya shows up because he had already fought Blitz. We'd seen a video of him fighting against him, and he shows up like, I'm here to finish our fight. And actually, after this fight, he joins the team because he's like, yeah, that seems like the fastest way to get back to that old man and beat him up because I don't like him. And that's kind of his entire reasoning for joining the team is, yeah, I want to get that old guy.
Yeah, I want to beat Blitz up.
But the fight ends when Gigas emerges from the river, this giant mech, so the villains run away. And then we get the scene of Megane killing her creator. And
wait. One other thing I wanted to ask is any character a villain from their story other than Megane? And I don't think that we can necessarily include Yuya because he was a rival, not necessarily a villain.
Right. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think Megane is the only villain that we've been presented with, which means that her actions make perfect sense in the context Troy was mentioning. That does make sense. Like she would see herself as a third party. Okay.
I really like that the villains of our story were like, no. You're evil. Like,
you mean the hero? Oh, the villains of our story. Yeah.
Anyway, so after all this, Mamika, who is starting to question everything, finds Soda on a train, and they go and they talk, and she's like, you gotta tell me the truth. Do you know who this military uniform princess is? And he's like, yeah, I've known. And he's like, well, is she good or bad? He's like, she's probably really bad. And the interesting part is, Megane follows them and overhears this. And she, to Jeremy's part, she shows up in a lot of important scenes.
She's just
whenever
there.
she wants. Yeah,
she's just always there whenever it would be convenient for her to be there.
And we find, and then the other group, they meet together and they find out that this military uniform princess character is named Altair, and she is from a fan anime website where amateurs make animations and draw pictures, and she's very popular on that website.
She's a really secondary creation of like a failed anime character.
No, it was
she's not even failed.
It was a popular anime character, but
but it sounded like it didn't take off like the other animes did.
Didn't they? No, they go to a convention where they watch the animator draw that character.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it was a popular. I love
that Altair got more popularity than that character, right?
At least on this website, yes. On the website. Yeah. Because that's the thing. Is this website becomes a very big thing. It's Tumblr, Reddit, 4chan,
for anime.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm sure there are better
analogies,
parallels. In real world that I don't frequent. Sorry, but it's where these people share their amateur stuff, and she's very popular there, and that will come into play as we learn more about her.
Megane in a maid outfit was brilliant.
That was hysterical. Yes.
That happens next.
And she was like really enjoying it, like showing herself off and everything. It was funny.
But right before that, though, the government brings in two more creators. One is Yuya's creator, and he's like, this is stupid. I have stuff to do.
I have a deadline, man.
Yeah. And Yuya hates him. He's like, I'm going to kick you. You're so disappointing.
That Subaru is so much cooler than you.
The other one, that's Blitz's creator, right?
Yeah.
Creator of Code Babylon.
Yeah.
And that's Blitz's anime.
The girl with the torn pants.
Yeah. And neither of these characters do a lot, at least in these episodes.
That was actually funny. That's a girl?
Yeah.
And she's always around, but she's always like drawing while everyone's talking and just kind of taking everything in. And then, yeah, the other guy, Yuya's creator, is doesn't want to be around. He's too busy to deal with all of this.
Yeah.
There's a really interesting. Before we get to the Magane scene, there's an interesting scene of Alice and Momika talking as Momika gets ready to go confront Altair. And they're talking about being a hero, and they said a really interesting line that in a world where everyone's a god, it's not enough to be a hero. Which was really interesting for these characters who we learned that this is their purpose in life, being the hero of their world. And now they're in a world where that doesn't matter.
At all.
Yeah.
And Alice having to try to deal with that again, really layered character development for Alice and Momika, and this scene was really, really good, and really kind of solidified how close they had become. And then we get the scene of Magane in a maid outfit, and she finds Soda and is like, "Hey, guess what? You have a secret, and I think I figured it out. And I'm gonna take your cell phone, and I'm gonna get your number, and I'll be calling you."
Like total mob mentality. Like,
yes,
don't worry to make your payment because I'm protecting you from me.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, though, if I was an anime fan and I knew what this character was capable of, I would probably be freaking out when they. I'd be like, "No, no, no!"
Soda was the entire time he was in that back alley. He was like terrified of this woman.
Yeah. I can't believe he met with her again later. I mean, I know that the reason he did was because he had something to hide, but come on. Your life is worth more than that.
And then we get the big Momika confronts Altair, and she comes to her and is like, "Look, I figured out you're actually the bad guy here. But you matter to me. You're my friend, and I'm going to save you."
The moment I saw her feet in that like arena area, I was like, no.
Yeah, you knew she wasn't going to walk back out.
No, she's not.
Yeah, she gets hit with 4 swords almost immediately after that. And
it's the moment she says the girl's name, Setsuna. She says Setsuna, right. And all of a sudden a sword just... I'm like...
Momika, no.
Exactly.
I had actually thought up until this point, like, man, this anime could be a little bit darker.
I did too, and then I kind of regretted it, but I'm also happy it happened. Oh, that's a really good sign.
Actually, and at the end, especially after this, I was like, they did their own level of darkness, and it worked.
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning of the next episode.
And Momika, to her credit, tries to fight back with a super blast. But
which seems partially successful. She actually got away.
Yeah, she does get away. Not very far, though.
No.
She flies away and then ends up crashing, and she's bleeding on the ground and dying. And a certain
blood
character...
all over Magane's corn dog. And then later, like...
She eats it.
Bloody corn dog. She just eats it.
Uh-huh.
I was like, she's going to eat it, isn't she? Yep, she did.
That's Magane.
This ends up being really important because Momika says her final words to Magane, and then Alice shows up and is like, "What did you do to my friend?" And she's like, I didn't do anything to your friend. Momika dies, saying, trying to get out her final words, but saying, like, "Hey, just ask that girl. I just told her." And
this is what I'm talking about. Like,
Alice goes to Magane, and Magane's like, she says something about kill her. Then she said Meteora.
Well, so Alice
save her.
This is a really interesting. I actually watched this scene like 20 times. Alice tells her, "Do not lie to me," and Magane promises that she's not going to, because before Alice shows up, she goes, "This would be perfect to lie about." She's like, she gets giddy, like, "Oh, this is going to be great to lie about." And Alice tells her not to lie. She promises she doesn't lie. And so she gives her all the information that she heard from Mamika. Unfortunately, she put it in the wrong order.
Yes. Yes.
So she did give her all the information, just in the wrong order. And actually, she complains that she didn't lie, and so she feels itchy after Alice leaves.
Yep.
So Alice leaves to go kill Meteora, even though that was who she's supposed to help. She goes off to fight her. So Magane, feeling itchy and needing to get some more lies out, calls Soda over, and he meets with her. And this scene, I'm never going to be able to do it justice and describe it, so I'm not going to go into much detail. It's very juicy, though. There's a moment where she's talking to him, and he's on his knees, like freaking out, and she's like starts rubbing her feet on his face, and then wraps her legs around his head and starts pulling him in like a snake going for a kill. It's amazing visual.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is Soda sees right through her lies, which was actually fairly satisfying to watch.
I was a little worried they were gonna like bite on this, because she says like, "Hey, you should know. Tell everyone Meteora is the backstabber." He's like, "Wait,
yeah, she's really working with Altair."
I was extremely worried about that, actually, that he was going to be duped into it. I was like, please don't do this.
We have so much other problems.
Yeah, we don't need this.
But basically, she just kind of messes with his mind about his secret some more, and then Yuya shows up and saves the day for the third time, maybe even fourth by now.
I'll take it. He saves the day awesomely.
And then Meteora. Now, it should be Meteora and him had already had a conversation, but he didn't reveal his secret. And then she comes to him and he reveals, like, look, I know who made Altair. I know who made the military uniform princess. And I am so ashamed of something that I couldn't tell anybody. And she's like, yeah, don't worry about it. In a much more better way than what I just said.
It very much fits with her being like that last person before the boss. Like, do you have anything to say? Do you have any regrets before you go off to face the final boss? You may not come back from this, you know? He did that character so well. Yep.
Another big battle breaks out, especially because Alice shows up to kill Meteora. And Mogane's like, hey, I'll take on Yuya. He seems like fun. And you need help, right? I think she did this just because she knows they would piss Alice off to be on the same side as her. Yeah. And also, Yuya interests her because he cuts through the BS. I think there's a clash of personalities there.
Yes.
That she's like, ooh, I want to play with that. That's a toy I want to get my hands on. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the battle rages on, and Soda calls for help, and then he comes back and he stands up to Alice and he tells her, look, I know your world is awful. I've watched your anime, but you're an inspiring character. You give me hope. You know, you got to realize you had a purpose. You weren't just horrible. And this, this is where Alice is like, quit messing with my head. Like I'm focused. I finally found who I want to kill. Please don't change that. And then a great scene happens. So all the others show up. Celestia jumps in to fight Alice, and Alice has kind of fallen back. She's not really being very aggressive anymore, and Celestia's like right at her, and Alice goes to defend with her big javelin, and Altair shows up and makes Celestia's sword disappear into rose petals.
Did not expect this.
I didn't either.
And Alice's javelin goes right into her, like stabs her full on. So cool, and so like, oh yeah, the fight's about to wait. What happened?
Yeah. Even Alice is just shocked.
Right, blood splatters on her face, and you can tell this is not what she wanted. She is freaked out by it.
The animation is beautiful because in her expression, drawn expression, you can see the regret. And the animators did just an amazing job.
The battle keeps happening. There is one other thing that happens, and that is Magane.
She finds out Yuya has a ghost.
And he brings out his ghost because his other power had stopped working. She'd already got him on that. And she starts asking about his ghost. And we find out at the end of this anime, she steals it from him and becomes her ghost.
So
good. He still manages to show up and save the day one more time, despite that.
I really like that.
Bleeding.
Yeah, he's barely able to stand, but he manages to do the thing he does.
Well,
Yeah, he's got the trademark of blood coming from the eyes thing.
well, Blitz shows up, so he's like, "I'm
Right.
not passing this up."
Right.
Yeah.
And this is the moment where Matsparu, the creator of Celestia, is like, I'm not letting some fan anime character beat my character. And he takes that earlier character description he had written and that earlier art the girl had drawn, and he posted it on the internet. I think on the Twitter is what it looked like, and it blows up. People start liking it. This looks awesome. Can't wait to read it. And it hits anime news sites right away. And, another guy holds up his phone. It's already on the anime news site. And Celestia basically digivolves to her new form with this huge fire sword and is able to blast away.
That was really cool.
Alice. She blasts Alice. And then when we see Altair starts fizzling out, she's overused her powers and the world is rejecting her. And so
because it should be mentioned that she also cloned Giga Mecha.
Right.
So.
There's two Gigases fighting in the sky because she made a clone of one, which is one of her new powers. And so she's overdone it, and everyone kind of notices like, well, she was losing there for a second. So she retreats, and then everyone goes into the hospital because Meteora has been banged up. Celestia is
her new form disappears,
right,
because even though the fans accepted it, it wasn't canon story yet. And it was just like an idea, and yeah, it was like a temporary power up. And then all of a sudden, the hole in her stomach just comes back, and it's like, oh my god!
Yep. I did not expect that either. There were so many things that caught me off guard in this sequence. They were really good.
The next two episodes really slowed down. I really wondered, we could have stopped there at 10 and probably been pretty good. But the next two episodes are very important. Because they have to do with Soda and his backstory. And while they're in the hospital recovering, he goes on a ride with Rui, who tries to cheer him up, I guess, takes him up in the neck. And they have some really interesting conversation. I really recommend watching this scene. I actually really was impressed. This is the first time I was impressed with this character and kind of the insight he was sharing about, why it's better to be a god than a hero. Because like, I was born to this, and I like that. It's simple. But I'm set for life. I know what I am, and I have to be what I am. You can be whatever you want. You're a god, and I get being a god isn't great and awesome, but it could be. You have the potential to be.
Yeah.
Really inspiring soda, and also some really cool visuals of them flying through the sky in this giant mecha. The big flashback then starts when Soda comes in and admits what he did, and we learned the backstory of how he met a girl online who was also doing anime art like he was, and they liked each other's art, and they didn't have many friends, so they meet, and you could tell there's definitely a romantic connection starting. But then she got very
drawing.
Right, and they go to that convention and have some fun anime moments.
I dropped my glasses. Oh, you have glasses. Let me wear your glasses because that makes a girl cute when she wears the guy's glasses.
You know what?
Yep.
I thought it was adorable. I loved it.
No, I'm being genuine.
Totally
it was. Yeah.
She gets very popular on the website while he remains pretty much just like our podcast, not being appreciated for what it's worth.
eight people, maybe.
Hold on. You have to assign worth to it first.
Ooh, absolutely.
And he starts to resent her, and he actually stops contacting her. And then later she gets in trouble where random people on the internet just start blaming her for plagiarism, even though they point out there's no fact for it, there's no basis of it. They just did it to see if they could do it. And the internet catches on. Someone made a wiki about her plagiarism. That was pretty bad. And she reaches out to him for help, and he rejects her again. He's like, I wouldn't know anything about that. And he admits, he's like, I knew she was being falsely accused. I wanted to help, but a part of me was disgustingly satisfied watching her suffer and feeling like I wasn't outside of her world anymore.
This is the most real reason for a character feeling bad that I've seen in quite some time.
And honestly, the best flawed protagonist I've seen in a long time, because they went all the way with it, and it wasn't just like, oh, sometimes I get mad. It was like, I did a horrible thing. She sends him one last message, and it's the video of Altair that created her essentially, and then she's the girl at the very beginning who committed suicide. And then the next thing he gets is a call from her phone, which is her mother telling him. And so he's known this whole time. He deleted everything that he had about her, tried to forget. And so when all this has happened, he's been like, no. I don't want to be part of this. I don't want anyone to know what I did. And so he finally admits to the group, I'm part of the reason this happened. Really, really good stuff. Like we said, just really deep, really layered, and really honest.
Yeah. But Meteora actually says some really great tidbits of wisdom throughout this whole thing. And one of the ones that stuck with me was like, don't hide from it, deal with it, learn from it, and move on. Because there's nobody good for you to continually beat yourself up about it. Don't forget about it.
Right.
Cherish
make it your purpose for living if you have to.
Right.
Yeah. It was good, but I'm really glad that they restricted the intense regret and everything to one episode. And I really hope that in the following season they don't come back to it more than maybe once. Because I could definitely see this being overemphasized. It happens a lot in anime, and they haven't done it yet, and I hope that they don't.
Yeah, we'll have to see. It's something we can bring back up actually in our next episode and revisit. They talk about how Altair's power is growing exponentially because they find that other people are just making fan art of her on this website, and every time they do and show her having a new ability, she gets that ability. Like they show a cartoony thing where she's playing her fiddle and there's these characters with her and she makes them duplicate for fun. So now she has the cloning ability, and she turns something into flowers in a beautiful animation. So now she can do that to anything she wants.
I thought this was a little weak, to be entirely honest, because what we're dealing with a fan character, right? And so if you think about the size of a fan base, the fan base that is going to create fan art and ascribe to this character so tightly would be a subset of the fans of the main anime, right? And so when you're thinking about other anime that are very large that these other characters are coming from, it makes me wonder, what if there were fan powers ascribed to some of these characters? Why don't they ever get any additional fan base powers as well?
So we should talk about Altair. My theory on that is that because the creator of her has actually been removed from the world, that there's a less restriction on her. And I would guess it's some kind of mixture of the despair, because she didn't get created in the normal way. It had to do with the despair that drove this girl to suicide and these fan reactions on this website.
Because she really didn't have a character description.
Right.
Yeah, it was just art, basically. Which also leads me to wonder, if that's the case, then we have the situation with Meteora and Megane, who both have dead creators. They both would have the same potential then. So it's interesting. I'm curious to see what they're going to establish as the rules that allow this versus why it's prohibited on the other characters. And they have to go to so much greter lengths. She's Celestia to have any upgrades.
She's our last character to talk about. So what did you guys actually think of Altair as a villain?
I thought she was great. Not a lot of... She's fairly straightforward. But just enough mystery left over at the end to make me really, really want to dive into this next season. And also, like Jeremy was saying, find out what gives her her powers. Why did she run out of power or start being rejected? Stuff like that. Because she didn't show up a ton.
They said that was the world. The reality was overflowing, and because of her, and so instead of breaking, it was rejecting her.
Right, and then we would have to figure out why.
Right.
The pillar of the world only has so much elasticity for their breaking the laws.
And maybe
of
because
physics.
it's such a central focus on her being the one that's breaking it, that she needs to spread it around more so that she won't be the one rejected.
Yeah.
What'd you think of her?
I really like her as a character. I think that she's a lot more conflicted than she's presenting to us.
Yeah.
And I think that, well, she has made the decision to destroy this world quite clearly. I think that she's carrying the burden of the loss of her creator personally.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that fascinating that she would choose to pick up that burden, because really she found out, if you think about it from her perspective, she comes into this world and the first thing that she figures out about herself is, I'm not even in an actual anime. Like, I'm nothing. And the only person who actually created me, committed suicide afterward, and people accused her of plagiarizing me, like, which means that I'm the cause of her suicide, but then I can't take that, so it's them that are the cause.
She wasn't the plagiarism accusation, was she?
Oh yeah, she was the last plagiarism accusation.
Oh.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you. I think it's really interesting that her motivation is that this world rejected my creator. And that's the line she uses, and that's her motivation for wanting to destroy it. That's a really interesting villain motivation. Not something I had seen before. So, I love the originality of it, and I'm assuming that in the end we're going to come to a big heartfelt speech about characters and true meanings and stuff like that. But I'm fine with that. I just like that we have a villain who's not just dastardly. Not evil for evil. There's an interesting reason there that I would have never thought of myself, so I'm all for it.
I have a feeling Soda's going to have a bigger role to play in this next season, especially since he's the closest thing as far as kin to Altair.
It's interesting her reaction to him, because she's not I think
he's going to have the power as a creator over her. Come later on, due to some sort of character development or action that happens. That's my theory.
That would be very interesting. I'd like to see that.
So this season ends with the main character, our heroes, coming up with a plan to stop her by basically a battle royale. They're going to do a crossover event between all their stories to create a new world that they can trap her in, enhance their own powers to the point that they can beat her.
And reduce hers.
So, they give them until 6 months to do this. They gotta change all their storylines to make it plausible that they could somehow meet. And that's the big plan.
I immediately started thinking, this is why they were doing the DC universe smash up and the Marvel. They're real. They're taking out the villains.
Look, they just need to give them to the Death Battle YouTube guys, and then you have a reason.
I think Altair would just win too much, though.
So that's the end of these first series. Now we are going to go on and watch the next 12. I think episode 13 is just a recap.
Yeah, I watched
from Meteora's point of view.
Right, and there's one moment where she's not quite Meteora, and she's in a bikini playing pool. I don't know why, but
you're not supposed to go to head, Jason.
It's a recap. It's not a head.
See, I wasn't going to watch it, but now I think I might.
Yeah, I might too now. Okay, so let's go to our final reviews. Jason, what are you going to give it?
I've been flipping between 4 and 5 just because of different reasons. I'm just going to go 5. I'm really, really enjoying it. I love hating the villains. And the story arcs are really, really decent. If I had to give it like a scale on that 5, it'd definitely be a low 5. But I'm really jacked for this next season. So.
Jeremy.
So I got to give it a 4 just because there's a certain something that it hasn't hit yet, and I think it might be revolving around Soda. For me, there just seems to be a certain lull, a certain. Not all of the characters have kept me intrigued, but it's done so well that this would be a high 4 for me. I'm right there with you, Jason, where I'm flipping between them, but I think I'm going to have to actually go down a little bit. So I got to go for a 4.
So legit, for the past 2-3 days, I've been like 4 or 5. Is it 4 or 5? And the reason is, so while I watched it, I kept thinking like, man, I wish Soda was a better character. I wish Celestia was a better character. And then they ended up being fine in the end. Man, I wish there was more action scenes. The action scenes are so beautiful, but really, you know, the way they're paced is really perfect for the story and the story they're trying to tell. I wish it was darker. It was as dark as it needed to be. I can't call out a thing that was wrong with it, except for as I was watching it, it wasn't quite hitting the sweet spot that I wanted. I'm going to do the opposite of Jeremy, though. I'm going to give it 5 because I can't tell you what's wrong with this anime to not be a 5. So 5 Bakas for me, but again, it's right there.
It's a really difficult one to pick from.
Okay, that will wrap it up for us. You know what we're watching next week? We're watching the rest of this, and then we will come back and discuss it, and discuss the character arcs and how they changed. Again, if you want to read Jason's blog, that should be coming out pretty soon after this episode airs, and it'll be very interesting if you're really interested in the Magane character. And our mini-sode next week is about harem animes, so I'm sure we'll get in trouble for that.
Yes.
Yay! It's the kind of trouble I like to be in.
If you would like to comment on your thoughts on this anime, you can reach us on our Twitter at Baka Podcast. You can send us an email, theanimebakaclub@gmail.com, or leave a comment wherever you found this podcast. And with that, I think we're all wrapped up.
All right. Well, thanks for listening.
Have a wonderful weekend. Or week. Whatever it is.
Oh, man.
Sayonara.